it's Leslie Zemeckis back for another Write for Success. So last week, my new regular column in our local paper, look how huge, the Montecito Journal came out. Every month I will give my book recommendations, and March, my pick and today's guest is the formidable storyteller, Kristin Hannah, and her new book, The 4 Winds. Kristin is an award-winning and best-selling author of more than 20 novels. Several of her stories are in various stages of development with Hollywood, so you'll be seeing them soon in another form. She is another best-selling author that was formerly a lawyer. And I have a theory about this, why so many lawyers turn to storytelling. I used to have a day job working in an attorney's office for years and years, and this is what I know about lawyers in general. They are smart, they have to write all the time, they have to know their facts and be able to present their cases clearly, sometimes emotionally. And so that is why I think attorneys make excellent storytellers. To quote myself from my article, Kristin Hannah's compelling new novel, The 4 Winds, is set during the Great Depression. Elsa Martinelli is living in Texas on her family's farm, struggling on land that has turned on them. Year after year, they endure dust storms that blow for days, choking everything. While their livestock starve, so does the family. Hope diminishes. To stay is unendurable. With her 2 children, one who is desperately sick, Elsa sets off, crossing the Great Plains in search of the American dream. The 4 Winds is a sweeping story about the strength of a woman discovering how to be brave. It is much a story about the migrants and their injustices that they faced, as it is a story about love of family and who we call family. About a community that pulls together to feed, clothe, nurse the sick, as our community here in Montecito has often done. So here is Kristin and her 3 writing tips. Listen closely because she is an expert. See you midweek for a rogue Write for Success. Remember, stories matter. Yours, hers, his, ours.
Hey everybody, I'm Kristin Hannah, the author of The 4 Winds, out new this week. And I just thought I'd talk a little bit about creativity and discipline and how the two sort of go hand in hand. I know when I was a young writer, when I was very first starting out in this and didn't really know much of anything, I had a very young child. I was a brand new mother. And so I could only write in very short bursts. You know, I could write at nap time for an hour, or, you know, during a play date for an hour. I would write when I could. Sometimes I would have to get up, you know, at 5 a.m. to 6 a.m. before my son woke up and before my day started. And that's really when I learned what I personally believe is one of the most important components of writing, and that is discipline. It doesn't necessarily mean that you have to have the same schedule as anyone else has, or that it has to be a 9 to 5 kind of scheduling. But I do believe that discipline leads to creativity, and that you have to sort of ultimately do a butts in the seat kind of thing. You need to sit down at your computer, or like me, sit down with the perfect pen and the perfect pad and simply begin. Because, you know, one thing we know for sure is that you will never have a completed novel if you don't begin a novel, and that you cannot edit and perfect a blank page. You can only, you know, edit and perfect something that you've already begun. And so, you know, what I used to do in the early days was outline everything as much as I could, and do all my research and talk to my critique partner and sort of get my story down because I didn't have a lot of excess time, to waste. And so I really needed to be productive in the time that I had to work. And I think it's that sense of coming to the idea that writing is a job. It is certainly also an art. It is also a craft. It is a passion. It's sort of the full meal deal here. But at the end of the day, for someone like me, a commercial writer who's been writing for 30 years, writing is very much my job. And so I treat it that way. When I go into my office to write, whether that office is sitting on the deck in my backyard or, sitting on the beach or sitting in my office where I am right now, I sit down prepared to work. And, once I begin, I'm like everybody else. I can stare at a blank page as long as anyone and try to figure out what to do. But I find that I get tired of staring at a blank page, and as long as I don't allow myself to get up, sooner or later I will write something. And one of my own personal little tricks is I tend to just start writing description. Whatever time of day it is, whatever place it is, I just start writing description until somebody says something. And that's usually the moment when a scene takes off for me, because it's dialogue that tends to drive conflict and create character and move the book forward. So I just sit down and I force myself to write, and I don't get up until I have written the number of pages that I have asked of myself that day. Now, of course, some days it's going really badly and I do get up and I do walk away and I do go for a run or go for a walk or, try to unlock my creativity in that way. But I don't ever do that 2 days in a row. And I don't actually do it very often, because I'm a believer in, write a bad scene and fix it or throw it away, rather than, writing nothing. So I guess my advice to you as new writers, as established writers, is if you're having trouble kickstarting your creativity, or you're having trouble, continuing and keeping going with your work, try scheduling yourself. Try, giving yourselves goals. Maybe the goal is a half a page, maybe it's a page, maybe it's 2 pages. But set yourself a goal of writing and work hard to make that goal, and hold yourself accountable. And I truly believe that in that way you will write more, you'll create more, and you will ultimately improve. And that's really, that's really the whole point, because it doesn't matter whether you're unpublished and this is your first book, or like me, you've been doing this forever, you've written 24 books, you still sit down and wonder, am I going to be able to do this again? And, the fear creeps in. And for me, the answer to that fear is the creativity that is created and blossoms through discipline and dedication. So there's my writing tip for the week, Leslie. And thank you to everybody for listening. This was really fun. Oops, bye.